What's up? Today we are talking about where are the houses with insert end of sentence, mountain views, pools, HOAs that do lawn care, no HOA at all, houses on wells. So we're going to talk about that. This video is specifically data pulled from the East Tennessee Realtor MLS, which is technically 12 counties that include Anderson, Blount, Campbell, Cumberland, Fentress, Knox, Loudoun, Monroe, Morgan, Roane, Scott, and Union counties. So Knox County, that's a heavy hitter here. That includes Knoxville, Farragut. Anderson County includes, Anderson and Roane include Oak Ridge. Blount County includes Maryville. But if you want to see specific to Knoxville, go check out the Knoxville one. If you want to see specific to Maryville, go check out the Maryville one. If you want to see Seymour, go check out the Seymour one. Sevierville, check that one out. So this one, though, is a more broad view. And technically it's those 12 counties, but we have, within this area, 3 and 4 MLSs. I mean, we have even more than that, but like I myself am a member of 4 different MLSs because I can double list things. And like, for example, where I live is Blount, Knox, and Sevier counties. Well, that's 2 different MLSs technically. So therefore, I just want to say that I pulled this data only from the East Tennessee Realtors MLS to give us a broad picture. When we get to Sevierville County or to Sevier County, where Sevierville is, as an example, I will pull from Great Smoky Mountains because technically that is that MLS. So anyways, this also includes all sales for the past year. So this is a snapshot of what's happened. And we're taking this to inform us on a larger, broader view. So we're taking this year as a sample. So this is October 2023 to October 2024. So this is a sample of where these houses are. We are making the assumption that based on where sales have been over the past year, we can kind of make the assumption about where these houses are with these specific characteristics. So that being said, let's dive in and get going. All right, so you're gonna see a couple things on the screen. One is blue, orange, and green dots. So what I've done is pulled all the sales for the past year and then said, okay, how many of those sales included houses with a mountain view? So we get a certain number of houses, we get out of the total, and then we're gonna see a picture of those houses, and you're gonna see dots. Those dots, blue is sold, orange are under contract, and green are active. So currently for sale. Now, I did not include expireds, I did not include canceled, and I did not include temp off market because those often tend to be put back on the market so we get double data. Like for example, you might see a house that's canceled, back on market, canceled again. So that's 2 dots, 2 data points. We'll then say it went back on the market and expired, and that's 3. And then say it went back on the market and it closed. Well, that's 4 data points. So that's not, we don't need to do that. Okay. So let's start off with what everybody wants to know. Where are the houses with mountain views? So if you look at the picture of the map, there's blue dots everywhere. I want to point out to you that the majority of the dots you're seeing are blue. So in other words, those are selling houses with mountain views. Number one, over the past year, those have sold. There are not a ton of green. There are not a ton of orange. But overall, for the past year, about 21% of overall listings had a mountain view. As you can see, once we get to the Gatlinburg line, there's nothing below Gatlinburg because there's not really like houses in there. That's the national park. That's Great Smoky Mountains National Park. And you can see that really there is a good disbursement of houses with mountain views. So yeah, 21% are gonna have a mountain view on average. All right, what about houses with a creek? I get this all the time. Everybody's like, we would like mountain views and a creek. Well, those are kind of in opposition if you think about it, because a creek tends to be more low-lying, whereas a mountain view tends to be more high. So you're talking probably you want more acreage, but specifically houses with a creek account for about 3% of homes for sale over the past year. And as you might guess, if you look at the graphic, there's actually quite a bit of green, number one. So quite a bit of active stuff at current, but also there tend to be located closer to the Tennessee River and like offshoots onto the lake. So if you look at Douglas Lake, you can see that underneath Douglas, you see quite a bit of homes with a creek. And then of course, around the river, you're seeing those. So What about Lakefront or Riverfront? Now I say this because we've got Cherokee Lake, Douglas Lake, Norris Lake, Mountain Hill, Tellico. Those are the heavy hitters. But that being said, about 4% have a lake, or lakefront or riverfront of total sales over the past year. Again, where might you guess these? If you look at the picture, you can see that they are all near lakes because they're lake or riverfront, lake or riverfront. And you can also follow the path of how those lakes are moving. So again, about 4% of overall listings, waterfront of some sort, lake or riverfront. What about a lake view? Lake view homes account for about 6%, and as you might imagine, they're also close to the lake. Typically these would be across the street from something that's on the water. So about 6% of total sales. Again, notice that all of those are blue, not all, but a lot of those that you're seeing are blue. Waterfront property accounting for only 3%, with a waterfront view only 4%. They're gonna move quickly. There's a high demand for those. So just note that if you see one you like, you wanna take an action on it. All right, what about homes with sidewalks? And this, I think this is a lie. I think this number is skewed because when I think about where are sidewalks in Knox County, for example, in Knoxville, I could name probably 90% of where those places are, and it's not 10%. In my opinion. So I think that some of this might be inflated. Some of this might be like, oh, there's sidewalks at the front of the neighborhood. I think this is the wrong number. That being said, according to the sales data for the past year, 10% of homes that sold or are currently active or under contract have sidewalks. Now, if you look at where they are all literally in Knoxville. Like all the dots are in Knoxville. You have a couple so you've got Tellico, and then you've got a area in Maryville when you look there, but for the most part, they're all in Knoxville. So 10% though, that just seems crazy to me. I'm like, did I do the math right on that? Because I just cannot, it's blowing my mind when I think about it. Okay. Next up, 3-car garages. So this is a huge one, people, and I did 3-car garages rather than a separate shed or workshop just because there's so many different ways. So technically what this search is not a 3-car garage, it is enough garage space for 3 cars or more. So this could be a 3-car garage. That could be an outbuilding where you could park cars. So I tried to get the sentiment of this data piece is there more opportunity for garage space, 3 cars or more? So properties that have that are said to be 9% of overall. Now, again, this is another one where you see a ton of blue because these are highly coveted, especially if it's an outbuilding or workshop. I didn't have a good way to measure that because people call them different things. So you can see that the majority of these are within town, closer into the Knoxville area. And then of course you've got speckles all throughout. All right, what about 1 or more acre? Homes with 1 or more acre. This accounts for 23% of all sales. And if you look at the map, you just see a bunch of blue. You will notice that literally closer into Knoxville, there's like a white part, which is kind of just under Oak Ridge. You see that, but I mean, houses with an acre, about 23%. So that's, positive, 1 acre or more. Now, what if we say 5 or more acres? We go from 23% of homes sold or active or under contract to only 7%. So, and you can see that closer in again to Knoxville, you can see the name Knoxville, you can see Oak Ridge, you can see that there's pockets closer into the towns where that doesn't exist. But even within Maryville, you can see there's kind of a blank space, but just outside the city, you've got options of 5 or more acres. So 5 or more acres accounts for about 7% of total homes for sale. All right, what about townhouses and or condos? The way I searched this was the word attached. So some townhouses could be attached, or this could also include high rise, even though high rise is really just downtown Knoxville only, and Maryville, downtown Maryville, Alcoa areas. So townhouses or condos, that's about 10% of the total sales. Again, if you look at the graphic for this one, if we look at where the dots are, we see that there's a ton of green, number 1. We see that there's quite a bit of orange, so quite a bit of under contract and blue, but overall it looks like mostly active and pending. And of course, those are in the city area. So like within Knoxville, within Maryville, right in Pigeon Forge. Now notice that the one in Pigeon Forge tend to be more green. Those are more likely to be investment properties rather than a long-term, like somewhere where someone's staying and living. But then if you look at Knoxville, you see orange green. So just noting that the markets are a little bit different, even though they're not that far apart. All right, what about no HOA? What percentage of homes have no HOA, and where are they? So based on the past year of sales, 62% of homes had no HOA. Now, there could be a restriction. I've talked about that in other videos. There could be some sort of a deed restriction, but so this is not saying unrestricted necessarily. I don't really have a good way to search for that, so I just searched for no HOA. I didn't search for no HOA either mandatory or voluntary, so this doesn't include any voluntary HOAs either. You can see that there is a ton of opportunity to buy a house with no HOA. Again, that's about 62% of homes that transacted over the year. So again, we're taking this data as a snapshot of what the general market looks like at any given time. What about new construction homes? So I dated this October 16th, 2023 to October 16th, 2024. So we looked at anything built essentially in 2023 or later. And of those, we see that about 19%, almost 20% of homes listed for sale that transacted were or are new construction. If you look at where they are, you see Knox County, you see closer into Maryville, you see a ton of new construction in Sevierville area, you see a ton of new construction in Tellico. I mean, you see quite a bit of new construction also around Cherokee Lake and then outside of Norris. So that being said, certainly we do have new construction going on. Historically, Knox County, Knoxville has underbuilt and have been outpaced with Nashville, for example, etc., which is why we had such low inventory in the 2021-2022 time, and why we saw such an escalation of prices in the area. So again, about 20% new construction. So is new construction possible? Yes. Now also look at the number of blue dots, green dots, and orange dots. There are many more blue dots than there are green and orange. So and then where are more green dots? Again, closer to that Sevierville area. That market is completely different than what's happening in Knoxville, Maryville, anywhere else, just because that is highly a investment market. So just want to point that out to you as well. But that being said, new construction is selling. People want new construction. Just keep that in mind. If you see something, take action. What about houses that have lawn care? Only 7% of those, which actually is interesting because we have more houses with lawn care than we do with creeks. Okay, just want to point that out to you. And to me, if someone said where are the houses with lawn care, I would say there's few and far between. But where are they? You can see a huge concentration again in Knoxville. You can see a little plop on Maryville. You can see Tellico, there's some lawn care going on there. And then in that Sevierville area, again, those are going to be primarily short-term rentals, investment properties, neighborhoods where that's an amenity, where you are paying for their property management, you're paying for their marketing, and you're paying for whatever those amenities are, which are going to include lawn care. So again, 7%. Now, what about houses with pools? Where are those? So total over this kind of East Tennessee area that we're talking about today, 4% of listings of things that sold or under contract or currently active have an in-ground pool. Now, this is specific to the house. In other words, the house itself has a pool. You can see a concentration of those again in Sevierville, because people are putting pools in those short-term rentals, like an indoor pool is probably what that is. Maryville, you see a concentration, you see some in Tellico, and then you see them more so on like West Knox and then Northwest Knox. If you get out to Coreyton and Strawberry Plains to the east, northeast of Knoxville, you're not seeing quite as many. And then, so again, homes with a pool accounted for about 4% of the overall sales, overall market over the past year. And then what about homes or neighborhoods that have a pool? So houses that are in a neighborhood with a pool. For those of you that are like, I would like a neighborhood pool, I think this is good news. Over the past year, if we take that data sample, 15% of homes listed under contract or active currently are in a neighborhood with a pool, 15%. So that's really good. Now, where are those? Where might you guess? Again, the same areas, right in Knoxville, little part of Maryville, Tellico. You see some in Lenore City. And then again, that Sevierville cabin market. You see that amenity as well. A little here and there around Douglas Lake, Norris Lake, and Cherokee Lakes, but primarily you're seeing West Knoxville neighborhoods with pools, and then some as well in Maryville. So what about houses that are on well water? So I chose this because I included this just to kind of show you homes with well water implies that it's further out, right? Because you're not going to have utility sewer. It's just going to be a more mountainous, most likely more windy, less accessible place, which is why it's on well water. And like, that's a very broad generalization. But that being said, what % of homes are there? I want to point this out to you. Earlier, I said houses with a creek. That was 3%. That's 3% of the market. Well, houses on well, that's 8%. So more than double of houses with a creek. Just want to point that out to you, okay? So 8% of homes for sale that transacted over the past year are on well water. Now, some of these are shared wells. So in other words, sometimes a family might buy a property, put 2 properties on it, and put the well between the home. That would be an example of a shared well. This also doesn't account for some of these properties may have both a well and public water. For example, I have a listing right now at the time of making this video where there is a well, but they also have public water. At some point, someone transferred it so that they have public water. And that's not the first time I've kind of had that situation, and where that house is not very far out at all. So as Knoxville expands out, this one specific property is in South Knoxville as an example. There is, like, where that house is now located very near the Starbucks and the Dutch Brothers and the Food City. So eventually water came that way, but it took many years to get there. So it is possible that, there's something on well water right now that could be connected to. I just want to say, depending on your loan type, you want to know that. So for example, an FHA home or a VA home, if there's access to public water and it's easily can be tapped into, that might become an issue throughout your loan process. I've not seen that happen, but it is an issue that does exist. So that being said, 8% of homes that's sold are active and or under contract are houses that have well water. Now, if you look at where those are, they're not in Knoxville. They're not within Knoxville proper. You have a random 1 or 2, which I bet probably those also have access to public water just based on where they are. And then you see in Maryville, not really much going on there. Oak Ridge, not really much going on there. The further you get to the mountains, the more you see that, and the further out you get from those towns, you're seeing that. You also see that corridor between Knoxville and Morristown, you have quite a bit of homes. So you've got Knoxville to Morristown, or I guess the way you're looking at me, Knoxville to Morristown east. You see Norris Lake and you see Cherokee Lake, and that corridor kind of between those, you see homes on well as well. So that being said, just a compilation of a lot of questions I get asked. Where are the homes with mountain views? Where are the homes with creeks? Where are the homes that have Lawncare? All those things. Where are the condos? So hopefully this gave you a better idea of where things are in the East Tennessee area. Again, go check out the one for Knoxville. Go check out the one for Seymour. Go check out the one for Maryville. Go check out the one for Oak Ridge. Go check out Sevierville. And hopefully these kind of help inform you where you might want to be and your possibilities of getting houses based on those certain characteristics. So that being said, I'm Haley Jones. I hope this has been helpful. That's always my goal, of course. If you have questions, you can always reach out to me directly on my cell phone or on my email. And until then, hit subscribe. I've got so much more to share with you, and I'll see you on the next video.